Hello, welcome to the Honest Heresy. The Honest Heresy, I don't know why I laugh here every time. I'm your host, Rob. Today's video is going to be a deep dive or a first pass, however you want to look at it, at the rules for the Demon of the Ruinstorm. Now, I know I'm a little bit late to this. As I said, I've been sick, but hopefully getting better and better. So that's why you're seeing more and more content. Very soon, you'll see the review of the Saturn book as well, the new book that's about to pop. But I'm very excited about going through this because, and if you don't know, if I didn't make it clear enough, the last book, the Imperialist Militia book or PDF that came out from Games Workshop was, in my opinion, maybe one of the best pieces of creative writing in regards to rules or in terms of rules that we've seen or I've seen for a very long time from any of the different game systems. It's fantastic. And actually completely 180'd my hobby plans. I'm now like only an Imperialist Militia player for a quick hot minute. I've built trucks, I've built Ogryns, I've built cavalry, I've built scooters. So I'm very excited about it. Now, TLDR, the chat have told me, and everyone's really excited about this, we've been talking about this all day, the chat have told me that this isn't quite as exciting a roster, but I do think Demons is a really interesting choice in the Horus Heresy. Obviously, they're a key figure, although they are kind of like the faceless evil that you get to play against. And in a context of Marine versus Marine, and I know many people who are into the Horus Heresy only want to do Marines. That's all they want. They want Marines. I still think this is a fascinating army to collect and play and be a part of like the metagame. And if you are purely only a Horus Heresy player, it feels like a good secondary army to maybe throw into the mix of your local club or, you know, your local play group because they're the bad guys, you know, depending on your frame of reference. So we're going to be going through this now. I'm very excited about it. Lots of new units, lots to talk about. Let's go. So the first page already is very exciting if you are a Heresy fan, and I need you in the comments below to let me know if I've got this wrong, because as you know, I missed out on second edition. So I'm a first edition OG, and now I'm back. So in this document, it goes on to say that they are not representing in this document the specific demons that we know, like bloodletters and plague bearers, that we know from the different mark gods. Instead, the demons that we're going to find in this book represent primordial demons, almost like, you know, prequel pod racing style demons before we get into the institutionalized demons that we see later. However, it does then go on to say that in the future, they are going to be releasing future army list supplements and publications will have specific rules and unit profiles aligned to specific gods. And I don't know if anyone's really picked up on this or is talking much about it, but that's actually really, really exciting. Like whether it be one of the Journal Tactica, where we get like, you know, a Zinch supplement or, you know, a Khorne supplement, or if it ends up being an actual full Liber with all of these like specific marked gods. It's pretty cool. In addition, this means that you can pretty much use any model that you want. It does say any Games Workshop model that you want, but obviously 3D prints are obviously out there, as well as alternative proxy models that exist as well. So you've got the opportunity to like really build something really thematic and your own here. But I gotta say from the bat, I'm really excited now that we might be exploring more of those demons and those primordial kind of like gods in the Heresy, because it seems to have been something that's kind of been removed from 40k. Not that I care about 40k, but there we go. So that's the first page. Pretty exciting news. I'm excited about it. So this book is going to have generic or kind of like non-god marked demons, which is pretty cool because you can start making your own stuff, you know, like eldritch horrors and, you know, beholders, and, you know, you can bring a bunch of like weird, I guess, non-canon or even very specific canon horrors into the game via this document. That's pretty cool. So the next page is going to give us a guide to what bases we need for our different units. In fact, actually, there was also a contents page as well. And you can see that there aren't a lot of options, although it's the fact that you can really kit out each of the options that make these very different. You know, there's Ruinstorm Demon Sovereign, but there could be a lot of options to like build and choose what they are. So base sizes suggestions is excellent. It tells us what base sizes we should roughly be playing. A little bit disappointing that this wasn't in the Imperialist Militia PDF, but I guess there was a lot of unit entries. Maybe they couldn't be bothered. Maybe they wanted you to just kind of vibe with it ultimately. So some base size is good. Then it goes on to describe the Aetheric Dominions. Effectively, if you're playing a pure Demons of the Ruinstorm army, you'll choose one of these special rules and it'll apply to your whole army. Obviously, this is a bit of a bucket of ice water after the sheer amount in the Imperialist Militia list. But obviously, also, it lets you really theme and stylize your army, which I think is super exciting. And as I've said, you've got lots of options. Thank you to Persia in the chat for pointing out. It does also seem as well that if you are taking your primary detachment with any units with an Aetheric Dominion trait, and there are 8 to choose from, shout out to the rules designers for having 8, for the 8-pointed Star of Chaos. That's nice. That's a nice little touch. If you make your primary detachment a specific Aetheric Dominion, then all of the units in your army must have that Aetheric Dominion. However, as being pointed out by Pershaw, if you take these as in an allied detachment, you might be able to mix and match a little bit and make it a little bit more interesting, which I think is quite cool. But ultimately, this means you're going to theme your army in a very specific way. Probably this means it's going to be very one-note and very, monosyllabic as a play style. But it is what it is. You should be running out there trying to rip off faces. You're a demon player after all. So that's just something to be conscious of. 8 to choose from. Let's look at what these special rules give us. So the first of our Aetheric Dominions we can have is Encroaching Ruin. The narrative for this is that it's just the pure rage of chaos and demonicness. It's just rage. It's just horror, like the unknowable horror. So, a model with this trait, or any models with this trait, gain the Deep Strike special rule. And while this is pretty good for certain units, obviously, being able to deploy off the board and Deep Strike later, also you can only Deep Strike 1 unit a turn. So, and in a game of 4 turns, you've got to be a little bit careful. And it gains the Destructors special rule, Desecrators special rule. Okay, let's talk about the Desecrator special rule, shall we? Because it's crazy. It's crazy. Don't forget, all models basically have the Desecrator special rule. Okay, at the start of each victory subphase, which is the phase that you have at the end of each of your player turns, this way you count up the points, the controlling player of a unit composed entirely of models with this special rule can make a willpower check, 2d6 equal to or lower than your willpower stat. If the willpower check is passed, all models in the unit gain the Line X special rule. This is a special rule that allows you to get more victory points for an objective than normally you're allowed to score. Let's say an objective is worth 2 points, the one that's on the board. You go up to it, it's worth 2, but you have line 2. This now means you're scoring 4. The core missions actually aren't very good. They need a big rewrite. So I'm going to make a mission pack for those so I can start running some events. But line is crazy strong. So strong that we might need to make amendments to how line works, like line only works outside of your territory, or line only works et cetera, because gaining line 3 means that if your opponent only has line 1, they mathematically can never score more points than you. You could just win the game right there. That's really solid. Now, what's interesting about this is, and I haven't obviously gone through the whole book yet, but we might end up with some asymmetrical design where demons might always score more points on holding objectives. However, they may be more susceptible to just dying. They just might not be an army that can hold up under the withering fire of Marines, et cetera, or even go toe-to-toe with them in combat. So I think that's pretty fun. And if you pass the test, then however much you beat the willpower check by gives you that value of line. If you get your willpower 3 or more below, your willpower check 3 or more below your willpower characteristic, you can get line 3. Bananas. That is strong. All capital letters said with a K at the end. Strong. So that's wild that you get that. In addition, so this is for Encroaching Ruin, Deep Strike, and you get Desecrators. In addition, if you have a unit that has the Command or Champion subtype, they may be given a Psychic trait and have up to 2 of the following Psychic disciplines: Pyromancy, which I personally think is pretty good, Telekinesis, and Divination. So access to those Psychic abilities is great, and those Psychic powers is great. Or even just having the Psychic trait is pretty decent for being the focus of doing all your powers and stuff. So great. Very cool. This obviously feels like a very strong one. We'll have to look at the rest to compare. We'll come back and do it in the kind of overview. The next one is Heedless Slaughter. A model with this trait gains the Desecrator special rule, so that's the best special rule for gaining line. Additionally, any unit that contains at least one model with this trait can never be the focus nor the target of a Psychic Blessing or Psychic Curse. It's pretty decent not being the focus of Psychic Curses, although I don't think it comes up that much. I think Psychic Blessings are much better, like kind of in a way to juice up your units. So I think that's pretty good. So I'm not too stressed about Psychic Curse at this one, but Desecrator's rule is obviously very good. I'd probably choose Encroaching Ruin, but this one is the I'm not playing as Khorne one. So the next one is Putrid Corruption, and this is the not Nurgle one. Not Nurgle. Any model with this trait gains Desecrator special rule. I've been now told that everyone gains Desecrator special rule, so I'll stop pointing it out. The Feel No Pain 6+ special rule, which is great to have that in there. That's excellent. And also the Heavy subtype. Heavy subtype for a unit means that you can't rush, which is your movement. It's when you basically run in the movement phase. Also, you can't make setup moves as part of a charge ability. So when you do decide to make a charge, you can make a setup move and shoot volley attacks with your volley weapons, or sorry, assault weapons, but you're not going to be able to do that either. So you are going to be slow. Your charges are going to be more difficult to do, and you aren't going to get across the board as fast as you want. So that's worth pointing out, but you are much more survivable because you get a Feel No Pain 6+. Also, when you're heavy, you get +1 to your cool stat. Watch out. Additionally, each model of this trait also has a variant of the bulky X special rule, also gains the Explode 5+, which is really fun. It's Nurgle, so it's like a little zit that you pop. It's like a little maggot you explode, which is great. And a model with this Aetheric Dominion trait that has the Command or Champion subtype may be given the Psycho trait and have the Biomancy discipline selected for it, which I personally think is one of the better disciplines. I think that has +2 strength, +2 toughness as a psychic power, which is obviously bananas good. So Putrid Corruption, excellent. Our next one is Rapturous Sensation. This is for the not Slaanesh fans out there. A model with this trait gains Desecrator special rule, and any model with this trait that does not have the Heavy subtype gains the Light subtype. So the Light subtype means you get +2 to your rush moves. And a model with this Aetheric Dominion trait that has the Command or Champion subtype may have the Psycho trait and one of the following 2 psychic disciplines of Telekinesis or Telepathy. So both of them are okay. So right now, just kind of early reaction. Obviously, like there doesn't seem to be too much difference between these. Really, it's just giving you the option to really like tell the story of what your units are going to be. Our next one is Formless Distortion. A model with this trait gains the Desecrator special rule. I don't know why they didn't just write that at the top of the book. Each time a unit that contains a model of this trait is declared as the target unit of a charge move. Any setup move made by the enemy charging unit is reduced by D3 inches. And while that maybe doesn't sound super impactful, actually charge ranges are pretty limited. Your setup move can be quite long if you have fast movement plus high initiative. But even then, reducing down by D3 is pretty solid. Also, don't forget, if you fail charges, you gain the shock status, or potentially can gain the shock status. So it's pretty bad to fail a charge. That's quite nice. And this is the not Tzeentch. Formless Distortion, not Tzeentch. A model of this Aetheric Dominion trait that has the Command or Champion subtype may be given the Psycho trait and up to 2 of the following psychic disciplines, Divination or Telepathy. So we could go through those more in the future, but yeah, I mean, I feel like -D3 inches is decent. Obviously, now we've gone past General Chaos and also the 4 Chaos Gods. Our last 3, open to interpretation who they're meant to be representing. Infernal Tempest, I believe, to be representing Hashut. Yes, as so I believe it to be, the god of the Chaos Dwarfs. Okay, any model with this trait gains the Desecrator special rule, oh my god, and the Flame 1 special rule. The Flame 1 special rule means if you do any damage to a unit in melee, then for the rest of that round, that unit, if it has to make any leadership checks, has to make a leadership check at minus the value of a flame, because you set the unit on fire. That means it's leadership -1. Thanks to a flame. So that's pretty cool. That's really, really cool, especially because you're probably a purely melee-focused army. Setting stuff on fire is pretty fun. A model of this Aetheric Domination can trait that has Command or Champion subtype, may be given the Psycho trait, and may have the Pyromancy Psychic discipline. So it's just an entire fire army, which is very cool. Obviously, I want to do this with like Chaos Dwarves as an example, but you can make a whole bunch of different types of units or models into this and have like a Tempestus Flame army. Would look great on the tabletop for sure. So that's a really fun one. It's also worth noting when we look at them that almost all of the demons cause fear. Fear is a special rule where units within the radius of fear, it's 12 inches, are going to be additional minuses to their leadership. So fear and a flame can stack. And what I love about that, and why I love the Horus Heresy so deeply, especially from a rules perspective, is the concept that, like, you have a demon that's causing fear, you have a demon that set you on fire. Those are very valid reasons to run away. Those are real good reasons to want to scarper, and also just really dominating psychologically, which I think is cool. Our next one is the Ravenous Dissolution, and we're pretty certain that this represents Malal, or the god of malice, the 5th Chaos God, which Games Workshop currently doesn't have copyright to, so only mentioned in whispers. I also think it's very funny and malicious that someone else has the IP for the Chaos God. That's very fun. Anyway, if you take the god of malice and hatred, any model with this trait gains the Desecrate special, obviously, and they also gain hatred for the Malefic keyword and also the Psychic keyword, or the Psychic keyword as well. This is pretty fun, I think, in a meta where you might see quite a lot of Psychers. Hatred is going to give you only +1 to wound, though, so it's not necessarily like a super bonus, but it's all right. And then the model with this Aetheric Dominion trait has the Command or Champion subtype, also gains access to one of 3 Psychic disciplines: Telekinesis, Divination, or Telepathy. But honestly, worth thinking about if you're always having to fight a Primarch, a Psychic Primarch, and you want to go beat his ass. Ravenous Dissolution it is for you. The next one is actually quite interesting, just from kind of like a conversation around the fireplace, or you're at the pub kind of chat. The Malevolent Artifice. So this is demons and machines put together. And obviously, if you're a 40k fan, you'll know Vashtor and the Dark Mechanicum. I think Dark Mechanicum are heading to both 40k and also the Horus Heresy, although we kind of already have it in the Liber, like, Tagmata book. We already have the Malefic units. But we've also seen from Legion Imperialis, we've seen some other units that have not been released yet in the Horus Heresy, so I expect to see that in the future. Anyway, TLDR. Any model with this trait gains the Desecrator special rule and the Armor Breaker special rule, which is additional hull point after you've penned a unit on a 4-up. And then if a unit that is made up of models with this Aetheric Dominion is selected to fill a prime slot, the following advantage may be selected. You gain the Paragon of Malevolence Prime Advantage. Add 1 additional Force Organization slot to the detachment that includes the Prime slot. This slot may be of any battlefield role, super interesting, other than a High Command, Warlord, or Lord of War, and can only be filled by a unit selected from the Machina Malefic section of the Mechanicum Tagmata army list. Look at the Liber Mechanicum. Right, this advantage may only be selected once per detachment. So this means you gain access to some of the Malefic units, like the Decimator, as an example, and you can put them into your demon army. So now you can have demons and robots, which is pretty sick. You can only have this advantage or prime advantage once per detachment. Obviously, if you take multiple detachments, that's multiple potentials to take this prime advantage. This one's actually pretty cool. Like adding in, like, you know, either 3D printing stuff or kit bashing some stuff, or you know, taking some stuff from 40k or whatever you want to do to add in a bunch of like evil admech into your demon army is very, very cool. I like that a lot. It's worth noting, of course, that there's some sort of special rule that gives you an additional reaction point as long as you stick with the list writing that you're meant to do. I feel like they could have just made this a core rule, but they do this on every army to give you an additional reaction point for just fulfilling the requirements of fulfilling in the list, which is cool. So you get an additional reaction point if you are new and for some reason you're listening to this. Reaction points allow you to make reactions. I made a video about this, which means you can do stuff in your opponent's turn as the reactive player. So the first unit we're going to look at is your High Command, and this is the Ruinstorm Demon Sovereign for 350 points. If you'd like to have 390 points, if you'd like, you can go for wings on this bad boy, which I think is probably the right decision. You might as well throw good money after good money. So let's look at the actual stats. You've got Toughness 6, 7 wounds. Always the first place I start is Survivability. Tough 6, great. 7 wounds, also great, with a 3-up armor save, 4-up invuln. Now, we could do a couple of things to obviously improve the survivability if we choose one of our kind of like, whichever one of the rules we choose earlier. So we could choose a 6-up Feel No Pain if we wanted to, go that route. That's pretty fun. I quite like that. That's quite cool. That's, yeah, very, very, very fun. I think that's the right one for me. But if you wanted to go more damage output-y, actually, I'd probably choose a flame. So I'd go for the God of Malice. That was also good. And then you've got a fire sword that you're going to be able to throw around, which is great. Okay, so if you've got the normal Sovereign, they're moving 7. If you've got Sovereign Wings, they're moving 12. They've got good initiative as well, so they also have a good setup range for charges. You don't have a gun. You have a Sovereign Blade, or you have a Sovereign Great Blade, but it's going to cost you 15 more points, which means a Sovereign Great Blade and Wings, we're going to be at 405 points for this bad boy. So Sovereign Blade is same strength as user, so it's going to be strength 7. And then it's AP2 damage 2. It's got phage strength. So if you do any wounds to the unit, they're going to reduce their strength down by 1 for the rest of the game. And Reaping Blow, if you're outnumbered, you add +1 to your attacks. Now, the extra 15 points feels like a bit of a no-brainer, in my opinion. This is your initiative modifiers down by 2. That's fine. Your strength modifiers up by 3. So now you're going to be strength 10. And your AP2 and your damage 3. Again, you've got phase strength and you've got Reaping Blow. 2, so you're going to have +2 to your attacks. And obviously you're just going to muller vehicles with that profile. You're going to muller a lot of stuff with that profile. I think you might as well just go for it anyway. So just have a big flaming blade or be more like Nurgly looking. They're also got Eternal Warrior 1, so in damage they take, they're going to reduce down by 1. They cause fear, which is earlier on I think I said -1 to your leadership, but it's not. Well, it is. It's -1 to all of your your mental stats, so leadership, cool, willpower, and intelligence. So it's -1 to all of those. Obviously that will also stack with flame if you go that route, which I think is quite fun. And also if you take any of the earlier psychic traits then, or psychic disciplines, you're going to be able to also gain access to maybe some psychic weapons as well, which is quite fun. So you could trade that out for your blade if you wanted to go that route as well. And then also you could gain access to things like biomancy, which is also cool. But it is also worth pointing out, thank you very much, that this monster that's going to run around is not actually a monster. It's got the champion keyword, and it has malefic, and it's got infantry, or it's got anti-grav if it's got wings. It's worth noting it doesn't have the command subtype, which means it's not going to be able to go inside of a unit. So yeah, I mean, pretty potent, does a lot of work, very fighty. Biomancy is going to give you like +2 strength, +2 toughness. And then this unit's also going to get line on its cool value. Once it's contesting objective in the point scoring phase at the end of the game, you are going to score bigly. Is the easy answer. You could potentially get line 3 very easily for these big monsters. So your opponent's going to have to really deal with this and ask themselves, how am I going to kill it? Let me know if you think it's easy to kill, but obviously make it more defensive by taking like the Nurgle subfaction. Our next unit is your command unit, and this is the Ruinstorm Demon Hierarchs. 250 points, and it's pretty similar to just a high command, just not as survivable. It is a frontline combat character that can have wings for +30 points, which takes it up to 280. And then you can have a Hierarch Blade or a Hierarch Great Blade for an additional 15 points. We'll go through those now, actually. The Hierarch Blade is strength as user, and it's AP2 damage 2 with Duelist Edge 1 and critical hit 6s. So any 6s to hit are going to do B +1 damage and auto wound. But the Hierarch Great Blade is +2 strength, AP2 damage 2, again, crits on 5s as opposed to crits on 6s. I personally think you've got a pretty high initiative modifier. Your initiative 5, so you'd fight before a lot of stuff. So kind of tempted to actually have the Hierarch Blade instead of the Hierarch Great Blade, which is different to the high command version. The reason for this is survivability is a little bit lower. T5 with 4 wounds, 3 up armor save, 4 up invuln save. Obviously, you can give them a 6 up feel no pain as well. Then you've got bulky 5, Eternal Warrior 1, or bulky 6, Eternal Warrior 1, fear again, and then you've got the Champion of Dominion. The Champion of Dominion special rule means that you just have to accept challenges and offer challenges if it's possible, and if you don't, then you are going to suffer wounds equal. If you gain the disgrace status, you're going to suffer some automatic wounds. So basically, you've always got to fight a challenge, although actually that's not going to come up as much as you maybe would think in the Horus Heresy. There's lots of units on the board, playing 3,000 points. There's lots of places to fly these guys. As I said, you could take them wings, so they move 12 inches. Survivability is the issue, though. 5 wounds. Toughness 5 with 4 wounds. Now, you've only also got 4 attacks as well, but they are at strength 6, which is pretty good. Initiative 5 is also pretty good. And like we say, that weapon, AP 2, damage 2. So you're going to have some real fun with this unit, going and chopping people down. And you can keep them pretty cheap. Just adding wings on is going to be 280. You can simply take 4 of these, run them around in like a big group if you wanted to, or individually throw them out. They're a bit of a monster to deal with, a bit of a terror. And definitely you can overwhelm the front lines of your opponent by just sending everything, especially if they've got that big giant monster to deal with in your high command. They're not necessarily going to deal with the demon hierarch. And also it means that your main frontline big dude, your high command, isn't just on their own, and you can kind of push everything forward at the same time. I think it's pretty cool. I'm a little bit worried about survivability, but that's okay. Great, like leadership stats. Cool is an A, like willpower's a 9. They're going to also become psychers as well. So each one will also potentially get a psychic discipline with the bonuses you get from psychic disciplines, access to potentially a psychic weapon as well. This is very fun. Okay, our next command choice is the Ruinstorm Demon Harbinger. So this is a character or a model that can go inside of a unit because it has the command type that you can see down here. It's also got the Malefic keyword, and it's worth noting the units with the Malefic keyword don't have to gain statuses and instead can take D3 damage instead with no saves allowed. That's normally. However, if a Demon Harbinger is attached to a unit or, out on its own for some weird reason, then the Totem of Dominion, which it carries with it, reduces that from D3 down to 1. Now, I wouldn't say 135 points is necessarily I wouldn't pay 135 points to do that, but it's worth noting that this demon army has got the ability to ignore tactical statuses, which stop you scoring objectives. And it's also got the ability to make it so you gain crazy numbers of line. So, this might be the best scoring army in the game. Basically impossible to deal with. No statuses, and it's going to keep getting line 3. Or, it's going to get line 1 sometimes. But in my head, I'm always getting line 3. So that's what Totem of Dominion does. But it's also got its own special rule. We'll talk about the stats in a minute. Special rule called the Herald of Unreality. What this effectively does, it lets you pick a unit, and that unit can gain the Deep Strike special rule and the Warp Rift trait. What happens is during any of their reserves subphases, the controlling player of any model with this special rule can select one friendly model with this special rule that is not locked in combat to open a Warp Rift. If they do so, they can select one unit from their army that's in reserves and only contains models with a Warp Rift trait. Reserve rolls made for that unit happen automatically, and then that unit performs a Deep Strike as normal. However, the first model from this unit must be placed in base-to-base contact with the model that opened the Warp Rift, and the unit may have a charge declared for it in the charge subphase of the player turn. So you just, as quoted in the chat, chest burst, rip reality apart, dump some demons right in front of you, and then charge them. What I like about this is you potentially could take a couple of Demon Harbingers, so your opponent has to constantly worry where the unit you've put off board is going to emerge on the tabletop. That is going to be very fun. That gives you a lot of options for you as the player, and also spooks your opponent. And don't forget, your whole job is to be spooky. You're a demon. You got to be spooky, right? Be very uncomfortable. So 135 points gets you a toughness 4, 3 wound character with a 4-up armor save and a 5-up invuln save. So we're starting to get into that section of maybe a little bit worrisome on their defensiveness. But they do have Eternal Warrior 1. They do still cause fear. And they do have a Harbinger Blade with 4 attacks at strength 5, which is pretty good. I think the Harbinger Blade is AP 3, so great into Marines. It's also got breaching and shred, so you potentially are going to be able to hit up some 2-up armor save stuff. But really, it's a support piece for your army, both in movement and also in reducing down wounds that you take in. So I quite like this. This feels good to me. Most people will tell you, or I'll tell you, that movement is a key stat in winning games, but also it's a key stat in having a great time. Just dumping a bunch of monsters in front of your opponent is very cool. I like that a lot. Okay, so looking at the troop units, the first one we're going to look at is the Ruinstorm Lesser Demons. So these are what you'd make out of Bloodletters and Plague Bearers and whatever else you want to kind of build as your Lesser Demons. 10 models, and you can upgrade them to having up to 20 models. They start as 100 points each, and each one's an additional 10 points, which means they're basically equivalent to Space Marine in cost. So for that, you get the same strength and toughness as a Space Marine, but you get a 5-up armor save and a 5-up invuln. Actually, what's kind of interesting about this, I think, is there's enough stuff that has AP3 that your Space Marines sometimes don't get any save at all, whereas you'll always get the 5-up invuln on the lesser demons, which I think is pretty decent. I like that a lot. Weapon skill 4 means they're pretty standard, but they're fast. Movement 7, they're really fast. That's pretty good. They are initiative 4, and they have 2 attacks base, which I think is worth noting. Now, don't forget they are malefic, so they're not going to have to worry too much about getting statuses. And you can also, instead of taking the character we looked at earlier, you can just take a totem for an additional 20 points, which means any damage you would take from malefic is going to go down from D3 to 1, although do you just want to, there might be a math point where actually it makes more sense to just take more demons, whatever it might be. Okay, your standard weapon, the demon claws that you come equipped with, are pretty decent. We'll go look at those now. So the demon claws are strength as user, they're AP 5, they're damage 1, but they're shred 5+. So any 5+s to wound are going to be damage 2. And because they're 2 attacks base each, unit 20 is going to be pumping out 40 attacks. Your opponent, even if they're in Terminator armor, is going to fail some of those. So you're not too mad at that, I really don't think. You can also change these out for like 1 point a model to Infernal Blades, which are -1 to your attack modifier, so like -1 to your attacks, so you're only going to have 1 attack each. Strength as user, they're AP 4, they're damage 1, but they've got Breaching 6+, which means you sometimes are going to be AP 2. I don't really want that at all. I would much prefer the Demon Claws and just give my opponent a bucket of dice to try and save. 1 model in the unit for 5 points can take the Infernal Great Blade, which is your initiative modifier is down by 1, your attack modifier is down by 1, but your strength is up by 2, your AP is 3, and you're doing damage 2+ as well. But I'm not spending 5 points on that. It's fun, but I don't care. So I'm not too bothered about that. And you can have every model in the unit can basically take a bolter or a magic bolter for +2 points each, which if you did take a unit of 20 and you took yourself a totem and you took the infernal, the immaterial projections, which we'll look at now, then you would, you'd be looking like 260 points for the unit, which maybe early on, you're going to want to spend a lot of points on your demon army to like build up the points and bulk them up. So you've got enough, like, you know, models on the board. But immaterial projections is range 18, it's 1 shot, it's range strength 4, it's AP 5, it's damage 1, and it's also an assault weapon as well. So obviously as you're charging in, you're going to be able to like set up, shoot with your volley shots and stuff. So that's quite fun. I'm not mad at that at all. So yeah, I don't think these are bad by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, like, they're not super exciting. They're just your troops, but they're not bad troops. To be honest. And you can put a lot of these on the board and they all are going to get line, and also they have fear 1. So your opponent's going to have to get into a fight with them. They're going to be minus leadership, which is decent, or minus to all of their stats, which is actually really big. -1 to all of your stats means they're failing all sorts of tests, especially status tests as well. So I quite like this. Maybe even worth just bringing in demons as an allied detachment just to cause fear if you're running as like traitor legions, because it's such a strong ability. But apart from this, yeah, these are great. Like, do I personally want to paint up 80 demons? No. Could you paint up 80 demons as a core of an army that's just holding objectives, being line 3 sometimes? Absolutely. So yeah, great. The other troop unit you get are Ruinstorm Demon Swarms. You start out with 3 swarms. You can go up to 6 swarms in total, and each one of those only costs you 15 points extra after. So for the 3 swarms you get, each swarm has got 4 wounds at toughness 3, so pretty low toughness, and you've only got a 6-up armor save and a 6-up ward save. I guess the real reason you're taking this unit, they've got 3 attacks each as well, but they're at weapon skill 3, so you're probably hitting on 5s. They're strength 3, so you're probably wounding on 5s. They don't have any special rules because they've got demon claws, so it's not super exciting, although actually no, they will have a shred of 5-up. I guess the real reason you're taking these is because they've got the ability to have infiltrate, so you can maybe early game move these up, deploy them like further up into the board, maybe grab some objectives. The problem with that is they have the support unit 1 special rule, which means even if you pass your test to be able to get line on these guys, support unit means you're only going to score 1 for holding an objective. So they're good for scoring 1 early. I guess they're good for trading, putting a unit on an objective your opponent has to charge, so you can counter charge onto that objective later on, you know, trading up. That's pretty good if they've not decided to bring any rubbish units. But I think your main troops are so good, you just take them. I guess these are just fun to have. Okay, so we're going to look at the heavy assault option, and these things are crazy good. I expect to see these on the tabletop a lot. So the Ruinstorm Demon Brute style with 3 brutes, and they're 120 points each. So it's 40 points a model. And you can have up to 6 more for a total of 9, and each one's going to cost you 40 points. Let's talk about survivability first. Toughness 5, 4 wounds, 4 up armor save, 5 up invuln save. Great start. You can also give them a 6 up feel no pain if you wanted to, or you can make them be a flame, which is really nice in my opinion. Also, you can also get these to chest burst out of someone, which is fun. They move 7 if you're not doing any of those things. And apart from that, they have got 4 attacks each at strength 5, although they do have impact attacks. So you are on the charge going to get 5 attacks each. Those are at weapon skill 4, so you're probably hitting most things on 4s. And then they are strength 5, and they're using immaterial armaments. Immaterial armaments are strength of the user, but they are AP 3, damage 2, and they've got breaching 5+. So, you know, a unit of 9 is going to be 45 attacks at strength. At strength 5, you get a lot of options to take biomancy as well in this army. So you could easily be pumping up both their toughness and their strength and making some crazy output. You can also take these in other armies. We're talking about just a moment ago. You can use these in Legion, like, you know, in Space Marines as well. You can summon these, which is pretty fun. They're etheric, so malefic, sorry. So you don't have to worry too much about statuses, which is also good. They're 4 wounds apiece, which is also really nice. That's a real problem. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be very expensive. Like, you know, unit of 9 is going to be 360 points. But you can keep them off board, chest burst them out of someone, and then just be in someone's face. And genuinely, I don't know what the answer to that is. That's a real issue. So yeah, these are phenomenal. I think one of the really interesting things about this is the model availability. This feels like a super overcooked unit, and the model availability isn't necessarily there from GW. The suggestion is that there's a 50 mil base. So there are some units, like if you're running like Beastmen, you can use like Minotaurs or Therodons or something similar. There's some pretty good units. But yeah, crazy good. Crazy good. So our next unit is a support unit, and it is a Ruinstorm Greater Demon Beast. So think of like a gigantic Chaos Spawn. It's going to be on something like a 130 mil, I think, or on a 60-90 mil. One base is one of those. Anyway, it's very tough, but it doesn't necessarily have a lot of output. So it's toughness 6, amazing. 6 wounds, great. 3 up armor save, 5 up invuln, and Eternal Warrior 1, amazing. Very survivable for 150 points. But then it's got 4 attacks at weapon skill 4 with its Great Moran Talon, and the Great Moran Talon special weapon is strength as a user. It's AP 4 damage 2 with breaching 5+. So it's like, okay, it's really fast, move 8. Great. Initiative 3. It's got Eternal Warrior for survivability. It's got fear. It's also worth pointing out now we've mentioned it, the whole army having fear is great, reducing down all of the stats, but you actually don't cause a lot of statuses. None of the weapons that you have in this roster are statuses or core statuses. So you're either relying on the psychic powers that you're going to bring on your high command and command unit to do statuses and affect the enemy units, or you're bringing in an allied detachment to do some sort of like some status stuff, which you could do. That would be pretty fun. It's also got impact strength, so on the charge it's going to be strength 7, which is great. Heedless, it's also so it means it can also start hurting vehicles as well. Strength 7. Heedless, it's never going to be able to contest objectives. So yes, you can give it line, but you're never going to be able to contest objectives with it. So yeah, it feels like a unit that's going to like body block your opponent. It's just going to be in the way. It's going to be a nightmare to shift, but isn't necessarily going to do a lot. I guess you can combo charge this in with maybe a smaller unit and then maybe generate some combat resolution from this guy who's never going to give up any combat resolution really in combat. Our next support unit is the Ruinstorm Demon Beasts. So it's worth pointing out that this is a cavalry unit. So it's not going to be able to hold objectives. And then this unit itself is movement 10, nice and fast, so you can get into your opponent's grill early, maybe tie them up as some of your bigger hitters move forward into the midfield. They're strength 5 as well, which is great. They're like AP, their weapons are AP 4, damage 2 with breach and 6+. They got 3 attacks each, hitting on weapon skill 4 at strength 5. So it's probably going to be like 4s and 3s if you find just regular Marines. Survivability, they're 3 wounds each at toughness 4 with a 5-up, 5-up. And they cost about 10 points each. You start out with 3 at 110 points, which I guess makes them 35 points each. And then each additional one is 30 points after. So you can have like a big wound sink unit. You know, it's going to cost you a lot of points. It's going to cost you 320 points, but you're going to be able to move them up the board 10 inches and just throw effectively 9 times 3, 27 wounds worth of dudes at your opponent to chew through as maybe you hold the center objective, score your bonus line points, and generally get in the way. So I would see these as kind of like a pinning unit that's job is just to be annoying. They cause fear, which is obviously really good. They're Eternal Warrior. They do have impact initiative as well, so you can get quite a lot of attacks out of them, which is nice. So that's the role I would use them as, maybe even just take a unit 5. You have to pay a lot for the initial outlay, so maybe I wouldn't take more than 1 unit, but they have a job, and that job is to pin your opponent. Okay, next up we have the Ruinstorm Demon Behemoth. So obviously you could use like a Defiler or Soul Grinder. It's on a massive base, on a 130 mil base. I'll be honest with you, I don't really know what the purpose of this is, apart from just having something big. Having something big is very cool, and being in the way. It's very survivable at toughness 7 with 12 wounds. However, it's got a 5-up armor save and a 5-up invulnerable save. It is infantry, it's heavy malefic. It's basically a dreadnought for the demons. So you could definitely do some cool conversions, which I think is great. It's got 5 attacks in close combat, but unfortunately it's weapon skill 3. So you're going to be hitting most things on 5s. However, you are going to be strength 7. So it might be worth trying to use one of these to punch yourself a vehicle or a couple of vehicles. But again, because you're going to be hitting them automatically. But it's got a pulverizing limbs, that's his combat weapon, which is strength as user, so 7, AP 5 damage 2, no special rules. And it does have its own shooting profile called the Vile Deluge, which is a Templar weapon, which is strength 4, AP 5 damage 1. And you can have, if it's got heavy firepower, so you can do 2 shots if you don't move. And it's also got a special rule called Primal Terror, where opposing units must make leadership checks when making a reaction triggered by or charge targeting a model with a special rule. I don't really need a unit to be more survivable. I don't, especially because it's not going to hold any objectives. It's got heedless, so it's not going to hold any objectives at all. It's got move through cover and slow and purposeful. It's really tough. It would be a cool conversion to make, but it doesn't do anything. And it's 240 points, so I could take myself one of the command units that we talked about earlier that I think is much better. Or you can be taking yourself even more of those brutes, which are also really good as well. So this would be a really fun thing to build, but I don't really know what its job is. And its job is probably to stay on the shelf. Our next unit is a recon unit, the Ruinstorm Demon Harriers. I think the best thing to compare these two are your like line troops. So like, your plague bearers, bloodletters sort of like basic line troop, which are 10 points a model. These are 15 points a model. You start out with 6 at 150 points. You can take an additional 6 up to 12 for 15 points a model. Which I think is okay. A good comparison though to those units is you'll get 15 lesser demons for the price of 6. But anyway. These are fast. That's why I really like them. They move 12 inches. Survivability, toughness 4 with 1 wound each, 4-up save, 6-up invuln save. And they've got Vanguard 3. Now, Vanguard's got a kind of question mark around it. It's a special rule. Vanguard lets you go and get additional bonus points if you beat a unit off an objective. I know phrasing, that wasn't very good. But you're going to gain those bonus points. So it's kind of the counter to line in many ways. And also, you should be able to make this unit still get line, even though it's got Vanguard, by taking the test at the end of the turn, which is pretty decent. You can still take the Totem of Dominion, so you're going to be able to reduce the D3 from Malefic for taking statuses down to 1. You can give every one of these models that bolt gun 18-inch weapon for 2 points a model. You can also take the Great Blade, but you shouldn't. And you can also take, you could change up their Demon Claws, which have got Shred 5+, which is great. for 1 point a model to an Infernal Blade, but you don't want to do that. They've got 3 attacks each, so 12 of them is going to kick out a nice 36 attacks at weapon skill 4, strength 4. That's really not too bad. That's quite a lot of like attacks, and it's pretty quick. Now, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to go and take these, but like this would be very cool. And again, charging up the field, getting in your opponent's way, generally be an issue. Moving over terrain, like sitting behind a piece of terrain, jumping from behind a piece of terrain, hitting a unit that's trying to grab an objective, also feels very good. So yeah, these are very cool. Definitely set these guys on fire as well. That's a good way. They could have a flame. They've got fear. Vanguard, again, big question mark around Vanguard. I should make a video about that at some point. But these seem really fun. Great kit bash opportunity as well to some really cool things. Our next unit is a fast attack, Ruinstorm Demon Riders. You get 6 Demon Riders for 150 points. You can take 6 more for 15 points a model. Survivability-wise, each model's got 2 wounds at toughness 4, with a 4-up save and a 5-up invuln save. So that invuln save is going to come in so key. They obviously got fear, and these also have got Vanguard, but it's also worth remembering they've got cavalry, so they're not going to be able to hold objectives. So they're pretty fast. They move 12, and they've got 3 attacks each at weapon skill 4 and strength 4, and they've got demon claws, but you can trade them up to having the blade. You shouldn't do that. You could take 1 unit with a... and then you have all of the models can also replace them for lances. You also shouldn't do that either because the lance is pretty rubbish. The lance is only 1 attack at your strength modifier, AP 4, damage 1, breaching 6+. So you go down from having 3 attacks per model down to 1 attack per model. I really can't decide why you would ever want to do that, so that doesn't seem sensible. They got Vanguard 3. They're very fast. 3 attacks each. Everything I said about the other unit also applies to this unit as well. They've got impact initiative. So yeah, again, this is a unit you're going to throw at your opponent to do a lot of attacks, generally pin them in, generally just be annoying. They aren't flying, so you're not going to be able to necessarily jump over buildings and stuff. So yeah, I don't really know what the job of the Ruinstorm Demon Riders are. If you let me know in the comments, let me know. Okay, so we're about to get on to the special characters or unique characters that you can take. So as an army, it really does feel like you're going to build several big characters from your high command and command slot. Obviously, the brute seems super cooked in this roster. So if you want just a bunch of stuff to run forward and smash stuff, go smash stuff. I think that's great. The line on everything seems crazy as a TLDR. I absolutely would play this. Just dump a bunch of guys on objectives and then just send my brutes and my big monster, like, you know, they're not monsters, but infantry heroes with wings flying forward and just generally getting my opponent's face. That's nice. You know, it feels like you can definitely do a flood the board mechanic as well and just put so much on there that's it's really annoying to deal with. And you've got enough points in here to just randomly throw some pinning units at your opponent as well. Access to a ton of psychic powers. It's a good roster. Like, obviously, you're lacking ranged output, and only real source of doing statuses is via bringing in those psychic powers. But actually, I like it a lot. I like it a lot. I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. It gives you a lot of room for interpretation. The sub-factions, or, you know, the different kind of like gods that you can be assigned to, don't bring tons to the table. I do like the one, obviously, that where you can bring like Mechanicum units in. That's very cool, especially as a way to bring in potentially status-wielding ranged units into this army. Feels like that's very good. But I'm very excited to look at the special characters, so let's do that now. Our first special character is Kabanda. And if you don't know who Kabanda is this beast here. I don't want to buy Kabanda. I'm going to keep telling myself that for the rest of the night after this. Anyway, Commander's 600 points. Survivability is through the roof. Toughness 8. It's already going to be tough just to wound Commander. 8 wounds with Internal Warrior 2. So it's going to be reducing down each damage it takes by 2, which is wild. And then it has a 3-up armor save and a 4-up invulnerable save. It's also a champion of the Ruinstorm, and it has Heedless Slaughter because it has to be in the gods assigned to Khorne, basically, because it's a Khorne model, which means you're not going to have to ever suffer psychic curses being cast on Commander. It's pretty good. Move 12, nuts. Weapon skill 8, nuts. 7 attacks at strength 8 is great. I guess maybe the downside is that the melee weapon that you're equipped with, the Bane Axe, is strength as user, so strength 8, AP 2, damage 2 with critical hits 5. So any 5s to hit is going to be damage 3? Damage 3. So, you know, on a good day, Commander might actually struggle to one-shot a vehicle, which is a little bit disappointing because a vehicle, even something, you know, really cool like a Kraknos or a Kratos, you know, battle tank, Commander is 600 points, is probably twice the cost of that and isn't really going to rip through it. So maybe that's not the target. Maybe the target is things like Terminators, just really get in the mix and like delete those units. That's its job. It's also got that Primal Terror special rule. So you are going to need to pass tests to be able to charge it, make reactions against it, and that's good for it as well, which I think is nice. And it's got really great, obviously, you know, stats. It's got leadership 12, cool 10, willpower 10, and its intelligence is a little bit low. And it can't have curses cast against it anyway, so it's kind of fine. I don't know why, especially with how the rest of the army is compositioned, being able to take a high command that's also a really killy monster, being able to take some command like flying units, which is also very killy. You can build like a very aggro hero hammer, monster hammer army that just runs at your opponent and then just spend 500-600 points on troops to hold objectives. And Commander really ties in with that and is a massive issue. So yeah, just great. She's Commander's also got a ranged weapon, which is range strength 8, AP 3, damage 2 as well. So worth pointing that out with 5 shots, which is an assault weapon. So, you know, yeah, you could build a monster mash army here very easily, and it would be brilliant. Our next unit is Korvax Utter Blight. So 350 points for a toughness 7, 10 wound, 3 up invuns, 3 up armor save, 4 up invun, 5 up feel no pain unit with Eternal Warrior 2. That's going to be a nightmare to shift. It's also going to be a nightmare to look at. Move 7 inches, and it's got 5 attacks at strength 7 and weapon skill 6. Its actual combat weapon is strength 7, AP 3, damage 2 with reaping blows 2. So this is perfect for throwing into Marines that are on an objective with breach in 6+. It's also got Noxious Vomit, which is a template weapon, which is strength 5, AP 4, damage 2. And it's got poison 5 up, and it's got panic 1, which is obviously going to stack massively with its fear 1. So being able to stack those two things together is great. So now you're taking tests at -2. So you could just template a unit of Marines, make them run off objective, charge this thing in, and fight another a unit of Marines on another objective, and you'll be in a good spot, which I think is absolutely fine. Got Primal Terror, so you're going to have to make those tests before you can make reactions against it, or if it charges you. It explodes. You are going to have to take this into Putrid Corruption. So you're basically playing a Nurgle army, which is arguably one of the two that are the best, because it gives everyone a feel no pain, and it also gives anything that's bulky, the pop rule. So anything that explodes, it's going to pop. Like anything with bulky is going to pop as an explode, which I think is very fun. So yeah, and 350 points is actually really competitive. Like, it's great. Like, it's much better than the Demon Engine or the Walker type thing that we saw as a unit profile. Absolutely, I could see playing this, building a Nurgle army around it. Very cool. Lots of demon characters that are going to chase forward, or maybe really lean into it. Really lean into building the most like wounds dense units that you can put onto the board and really like overwhelm your opponent's ability to shift stuff, to, you know, literally to chop through all of the units to get onto objectives, and then use the ability to like pop demons out of that command character that we talked about earlier. I think that's really cool. So yeah, you could really do like a flood the board style mechanic with this and with Korvax. Our last character is Samus, 400 points, toughness 7, 7 wounds, and then has got a 3 up armor save, 4 up invun on this as well. Fear 1, Eternal Warrior only 1. So a little bit squishy than the other two that we've looked at. Bulky 8, but it does have deep strikes. You don't have to initially worry about getting harmed. Then you've got Primal Terror, which is that same rule. And then this is got to be in the army with the Encroaching Ruin. The Encroaching Rune, which is flaming attacks, I'm pretty certain that you're going to get, which is pretty fun. And then you've got 6 attacks, a weapon skill 7 with your Blade of Samus, which is strength of the user, so strength 7, AP 2, damage 2 with critical hit 6+. So I think It's okay into just Terminators. It's okay into Marines. But again, you're not necessarily smashing big vehicles. That's not really your job. You're not even really fighting into... I don't think you're even fighting into things like Saturnine, really, with this model. But great stats. I think of all of them, I'm most excited about... of the three, I'm most excited about Commander, who I forgot to point out is actually Fear 2 over Fear 1. And I think second up, I think Korbaks as well. It's not an army I would ever build, but I think it's an army that would be really fun to play. So that's everything from the Demons book. I'm obviously not as excited as I was after the Imperialis Militia book, but I'm still actually pretty jazzed. Like, the fact that anyone can just decide that they want to jump into the Horus Heresy and just play as these monsters, and you can build a monster army, like Commander, a high command, and a bunch of commands, all with fly, is an incredible amount of like mid-board pressure right at the beginning of the game that I don't think your opponent's really good. I'm thinking about my list right now. If all of that just took the middle of the board, I think I would probably panic. I'm like, uh-oh. I'm not really sure what I can do with that. It's a lot of high toughness. It's a lot of invuln saves. It's a lot of wounds that's going to be on me on turn 2. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to like fight my way out of that. And while all of that is descending on me, they're just going to have infantry units just grabbing pieces of the board. And then even if you don't go along that route and you just have a bunch of those brutes, which feel super cooked, and you just run them, that's a lot of wounds, a lot of toughness that I'm really going to struggle with. I think of Castellax in the AdMech, and they're actually a nightmare to like punch through and deal with, but they don't actually have a lot of output. The reverse of this is true for the brutes. The brutes have a lot of output, so it's actually quite scary. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed all of the rules for the Horus Heresy. I think if you're not an Horus Heresy fan, I mean, I don't know why you've watched an hour of this video at this stage if you're not, but I think we're living in a golden time of fun and creativity and games to play. The only thing that's really a problem at the moment is missions, which hopefully we can solve sometime soon. But I've loved this. I hope you've loved it too. Thanks for watching. And yeah, just thanks for hanging out. And I'll be making more videos soon. Next video is going to be on the Saturnine book. The new Saturnine book's going to be out. So I'm looking forward to that. So loads of love. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.